Of all the lines in the profiles, the third line really oftentimes has, I think, the hardest experience and the hardest journey. And part of why it has such a hard journey is we live in a culture that's obsessed with the idea of perfection, that somehow we're supposed to be born knowing how to do things, and that the more we get things quote unquote right, the more value we have. But what we forget is that perfection is a dynamic state. It's not a static state. If it was a static state and we were perfect and we get everything perfect, there'd be no growth and expansion. It is the third line that brings in new possibilities. The third line pushes the boundaries, if you will, of the edges of what we think is possible. And in order for them to do that, they have to have the freedom to explore. And part of that exploration means sometimes they're going to fall off the cliff, or sometimes they're not going to find the quote unquote right path in the beginning. We need the third line energy to help us grow and expand. We need the third line energy to help us evolve. And if we don't let the third lines explore and experiment in the way in which they are designed to, then we all suffer. The third line in quantum human design is called the explorer. The need that the third line has is the need to experiment and try everything. They have a natural drive for curiosity, a natural drive to try and see what works. The fear that the third line experiences is the fear of failure. Oftentimes, the third line gets an enormous amount of judgment for screwing it up or making mistakes or getting it wrong or for not following the instructions the way they're supposed to. But they're not supposed to follow the instructions. They're supposed to figure out, is there a different and better way to do this? And so what I oftentimes see with third lines is that fear of being judged or criticized or yelled at, or that fear of failing is so deeply ingrained into the cells of that third line energy that they shut down that need to experiment. They stop trying. They stop letting the curiosity run the show. And then when a third line stops exploring, we all lose out. We all lose out because it's from that exploration that the third line finds what works best. And it's not just in the single thing that they're exploring. The gift of the third line is their ability to look at everything that they've explored, to tie it together in this really big, beautiful picture overview. And from that synthesis, for them to really see and understand deeply what works, what doesn't, what needs to change, what do we need to expand upon, and how do we need to implement this new information in order for us to maximize our potential.